You can say the same for me. If I'm in a relationship with a 16-year-old, I'm 28, same age as you, is that fucked up? It's a very, very simple question. You only have to answer yes or no.
I see what you're doing here, but at the end of the day, like...
It's a very important question.
No, I understand that. I'm not playing this game, Colossal.
It's not a game. It's not a game.
It is, because it's
I find it interesting that you're dodging that question when it's a very simple question.
I'm not dodging the question.
I don't think you can answer it. I think your moral compass is completely fucked and you can't answer it.
So there's this little indie game called Among Us. Not sure if you've heard of it. With a variety of high-level streamers, YouTubers, and politicians, making it one of the most talked about and revered party games on the market right now, the objective is pretty straightforward. Crewmates are meant to complete a series of tasks while working to uncover and eliminate a predetermined number of imposters in order to survive. Now apply that same concept to weeding out pedophiles in the Minecraft community, and it suddenly isn't as fun.
There are pedophiles in the Minecraft community. There are pedophiles in the Minecraft community. There are pedophiles in the Minecraft community.
This guy is a pedophile!
Yeah, I mean, that's 2016 for you. You may think Minecraft is popular now, but there was a time on YouTube where it was the absolute easiest and quickest way to pull views. Kids are the driving force behind many of the biggest money-making machines on YouTube. It's true their Stegosaurus-sized pea-brains will click just about any form of godforsaken slop the algorithm shoves in front of them, so long as it involves their favorite characters or franchise. This made a lot of people very rich and very influential going into 2012 and beyond, some of whom probably didn't deserve it.
And what are those?
Oh, my dear boy, those are called toes, which are simply delicious.
What the
Here, they are toes. You know the problem with Minecraft toes, Steve? Do they offend you? You want some more? Girls, get over here.
Go away! Stop it! This is not supposed to happen!
But there's another category of individuals, those who blatantly took advantage of this format and used the unprecedented popularity of such a game to act upon some of the most wicked and depraved tendencies known to man, shamelessly tainting the innocence of the most vulnerable and corrupting the minds of their child fans without so much as a second thought. One of the most vile specimens being a rather deplorable online figure by the name of LionMaker.
Anyway, I am also going to be joined by, I can see a little beak there poking through my door. I am being joined by Rosie the Penguin, who has come bearing fish. And I'm also going to be joined by LionMaker, who is another slightly more fierce looking kitty cat.
Marcus Wilton joined YouTube on July 9th, 2013 under the alias LionMakerStudios. Hailing from Belgium, the 27-year-old private chef launched his channel alongside a series he called Crafting into YouTubers, where he would slowly but surely begin to develop a presence by interviewing over 200 different Minecraft Let's Players, including big names like LD Shadow Lady and Stampy Longhead. But it wasn't until he started dabbling in various Minecraft minigames himself that his channel really took off, with Survival Madness and Minecraft Hunger Games being pretty big for our friend's channel, racking up damn near 750,000 subs and 200 million total views over the next few years. I honestly wish I could give you more examples of his early content, but to be frank, his channel has already been deleted. Twice, for that matter. But we'll get into why that happened in a little bit. Regardless, Marcus quickly began to gain notoriety throughout 2014 2014, as his collabs with larger, more notable figures in the Minecraft world would amass millions of views per video on a pretty consistent basis. Popular creators like MiniGod951 and Stampy were quick to give their friend Marcus airtime on their own channels, and thus his presence within the Minecraft landscape skyrocketed into a disgustingly overblown audience of a couple 100,000 fans, or as he infamously dubbed them, cubs. Yeah, keep that in mind when you consider he was selling kids' underwear with his face plastered on the crotch.
It's just pretty fucking sick. It's like you can feel his faces nuzzling up against some little kid's balls. There are even videos of children shaking their fucking bottoms at him.
See, our friend Marcus was said to have a pretty unique tendency of hanging out with these cubs in group Skype calls, essentially forcing his preteen audience to act as his own personal therapist as he outlined the darker side of his mental health rarely shown to the public. Similarly to individuals like Austin Jones or Onision for that matter, there seemed to be more underlying intentions when it came to LionMaker's pursuit of power within a community widely dominated by emotionally vulnerable teens that became abundantly clear one day when he decided to tweet real child porn. But hey, let's take a breather. In order to make sense of LionMaker's diseased past, we're going to need to go back a little further.
Let's get right into the news. Today on Drama Alert, we have a angry mother whose child had a very inappropriate interaction with a known YouTuber known as LionMaker.
It was reported that Susie Wiseman's 12-year-old daughter began receiving messages from her favorite YouTuber LionMaker as early as 2014. Starting off as what she described to be a sweet gesture on his part, the 27-year-old quickly turned their conversation sexual, requesting nudes from the child as outlined in Vice magazine and further confirmed by Susie herself in a Drama Alert interview from 2015.
She got into the YouTube thing and
started watching a lot of content creators and streams and stuff.
Exactly. And there were many, but LionMaker was one that was kind of particularly prevalent, can you say?
Yeah. Now, how old is your daughter, Susie?
She's 13 years old.
Sorry, you got shitty parents. They don't give a fuck about you. So here you are. Woo! Reality time. Reality.
And then he asked her to send nudes.
What is your reaction at that? I mean, it's a 27-year-old man asking your 13-year-old daughter for nudes.
I already had researched who she was having contact with and knew he was 25, 27 years old, something like that.
You had to have let him know, like, this was inappropriate, right? What happened next?
Well, next it was kind of... we believed it wasn't him and he was hacked. But then the proof came forward that he wasn't hacked.
So I don't know how LionMaker could have been so daft as to just blatantly ask a child for nudes and think that would somehow go over just fine. But right as he was caught and word began to spread around the community, his immediate defense was that he was just hacked. That was it. It wasn't him. Oh, he couldn't have sent the DM because he was in jail. Now, maybe that's where he should have been, but unfortunately for him, the jail in question was actually closed at the time the messages were sent. You know, if you're gonna have such a wildly implausible alibi, at least make sure it's still possible.
Well, it was a little more than he wasn't there. It was like the precinct, can you call it?
Yeah.
Was shut. So he would have to have been in a more major precinct. I don't know how you word it in American, right. But he would have to have been in some more...
A different jail.
Yeah.
Contacting the police would prove to be a lost cause in this instance as well, because it would turn out that one screenshot of LionMaker's supposedly hacked account asking Susie's child for nudes would hardly be enough to convict him of a crime. An understandable but greatly unfortunate lapse in hindsight, considering the eerily similar accusations that soon followed. One involving our friend LionMaker supposedly requesting nudes from a 16-year-old boy in exchange for $500. So on top of everything else, there's evidence to suggest he's a fucking pay pig, which I think we can all agree is the real crime here.
I told him the same day it happened. He's like, oh hey, I'll send you some money on PayPal if you send me some nudes. I was like, what the fuck?
$50. LionMakerStudios.
Yep.
Refunded on June 12th.
I used to go through serious depression, and he'd tell me that he had the same feelings. We would say gay things and joke around, but that was just acting like two really good bros, you know? Even when I wasn't joining in, he would constantly say inappropriate things. That he was going to barge into my house and rape me. I was creeped out, but I didn't think anything of it. Yeah, he didn't think anything of it because 16-year-old brains are in no way capable of fully processing the legitimately dangerous and predatory ramifications of their 27-year-old idol joking about sexually assaulting them. Kids never realize how they're being taken advantage of in the moment. That kind of realization usually only hits in hindsight. No 16-year-old is ever equipped to handle that kind of language from someone 11 years their senior, no matter how far LionMaker goes in his attempts to justify it.
It's just one of those lines that have been traced, and those lines have been traced this way here and in a lot of surrounding countries as well. Some of the consent age goes all the way down to 14. And so be it. If that is what the culture that we are in are used to, that is how we're going to live our lives.
Although, it's important to stress that none of these allegations at the time were proven, with the severity of such accusations splitting the Minecraft community. Oh, LionMaker, he's too sweet and harmless. He would never do anything to hurt a child. LionMaker continued to double down on his alibi, asserting that it must have been someone getting into his account in an attempt to blackmail him. Remember, he was conveniently in jail for an unspecified offense the night his hacker asked the child for nudes, apparently. Never mind the fact that he went back on his word later and tried arguing the screenshots were photoshopped, but LionMaker's cubs moved on in a matter of weeks, discounting everything lobbed his way as they continued to watch his channel grow. And before long, he had resumed his collabs with other crafters, developing a relationship with a Minecraft YouTuber by the name of Paige the Panda, which wouldn't be a problem if she wasn't fucking 16!
Put him in a cage! These Are Scary Gaming said that him and his wife were in a Skype call when LionMaker was sexually hitting on this 15-year-old girl known as Paige the Panda. And he also said that the two were having a relationship, the 27-year-old Minecraft YouTuber and the 15-year-old fangirl.
The news broke that Marcus was openly flirting with his then teenage girlfriend, Paige the Panda, in group Skype calls? The rumors quickly rippled throughout social media that night, amplified by DJ Killer Keemstar himself in a Twitter video.
Studies have shown that pedophiles usually are sexually attracted to kids because when they were a child, they were sexually abused. So if this is what happened to you when you were a kid, why would you want to do this to more kids? Why would you want to create more monsters like yourself? Stop being so selfish. Admit you have a problem, get better, and leave the Minecraft community that's filled with children before you create more monsters.
Well, this is when Marcus finally snapped.
Since Panda Paige was 15, her and I have had several sexual exchanges on Skype. I have fooled all of you and made plenty of money while doing it. Keemstar was right all along. I'm a pervert that should just kill myself. But what happened next was absolutely disgusting. He tweeted out a nude picture of the 15-year-old girl. Now, we didn't screenshot that, and we're not going to show you that because that is child porn. the 15-year-old fangirl tweeted out this. All I can say is I'm sorry. I lied to a lot of my friends and family. I am sorry.
The funniest part was he had completely incriminated himself when he began running with the asinine insinuation that Keemstar had been the one to hack his account that night.
I wasn't sure if he was doing it or if he was hacked, so I sent him a DM saying, who is on this account? Well, he tweeted out a picture of the DM that I sent to him saying, now why would Keemstar ask me this? This is the only reason I suspect him.
I mean, you can clearly tell the background of the person who tweeted Paige's nudes also happened to match the background of LionMaker. Weird how that happens, huh? His performative outcries may have been a shameless attempt to discredit his victims, but really only serves to hurt himself. It seemed that for the first time in his entire career, LionMaker's true character was finally on full display, making him the perfect target for some much-deserved judgment.
Drop it.
Rage, it's a disgusting loophole that perverts like LionMaker will always abuse. He dares try and justify it by claiming it's relative to culture. It is not a part of our culture.
On March 7th of 2016, a YouTuber by the name of Colossal is Crazy uploaded a scathing assessment of the LionMaker situation up until that point. Now you have to understand that this one video would prove itself to be a massive game changer in the LionMaker saga, thanks to Colossal's ability to analyze and break down an otherwise complicated situation into a more condensed and coherent 16-minute story, easy for millions of people to digest. By laying out the timeline of events leading up to his eventual public degradation, Colossal was able to paint Marcus in a brutally honest light that caused countless former fans to see LionMaker as he truly was, which was an active danger to the large sum of child fans at his constant disposal.
He doesn't even deny she's 16. I mean, there was even some evidence to suggest that she was younger than that when they first met, but at the end of the day, there's at least an 11-year age gap. And it's not like she's very mature 16-year-old. She looks about fucking 12.
Baseless hacking claims aside, a children's entertainer routinely developing eyebrow-raising connections with individuals over a decade younger than himself would be more than enough probable cause for many to call for his deplatforming. Now, of course, this may not have happened at the time, but he did manage to keep somewhat of a low profile for the remainder of that year. Not much was heard from LionMaker throughout 2016. That is until a 2-hour-long interview that November. Like, I don't know if I can handle something that big and long, so I'll pass it off to someone who can. But first, let's talk about why you need NordVPN. If you're in America, chances are you're missing out on some of the best content Netflix has to offer. Shows like The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, SpongeBob SquarePants are all impossible to access in the United States unless you use a VPN. With NordVPN, you can change your location to view blocked content from anywhere in the world. With thousands of servers in over 60 different countries, NordVPN not only gives you unlimited hours of uninterrupted streaming, but prevents others from tracking your online activity. And if you act quick, you can still get their limited time Black Friday deal. Get 68% off a 2-year plan plus 4 additional months free by visiting NordVPN.com/Jawbry or use code Jawbry at checkout. That's NordVPN.com/Jawbry, promo code Jawbry to get their epic cyber deal before it ends.
Thank you, Jawbury. It truly is an honor to be here. The last few months have not been the most fun, and I must admit I've been in a bit of a personal rut recently. So when my good friend Jonathan approached me here with the proposition of a collaboration, I thought there really isn't a better way to heave myself from this mental abyss than to evaluate a 2-hour exchange between a magniloquent British man and a nonce. So here I am, bursting with enthusiasm, and maybe, just maybe if you're lucky, you'll hear some groundbreaking insights that you've never even considered. With that in mind, let's discuss the background behind this fabled showdown. As you're probably aware by now, Colossal had been one of the outspoken critics of LionMaker's antics, making a video not too long after many of the allegations against him came to light. This video was also one of the most influential of its time, not only eliminating many of his supposed transgressions, but his manipulative behavior in handling.
What I do know is that even if LionMaker is telling the truth about everything, he does not deserve to keep his channel. His audience are vulnerable children, and he was in a relationship with a girl over a decade his junior. With the allegations he's facing, it is disgusting to me that YouTube has allowed him to go unnoticed and continue to make videos for this highly impressionable audience. I personally think that almost everything that LionMaker has been accused of is true.
LionMaker obviously disputed the narrative propounded by Colossal, and I vaguely remember there being a back and forth in the day leading up to the interview, where LionMaker had initially agreed to an interview but later pulled out. This can be corroborated by these old tweets from other users and even a comment LionMaker made himself in the interview.
When I refused, when I told you that I wasn't going to go through with the initial interview that we had planned,
it seemed he did eventually have a change of heart on whether he wanted the opportunity to clear his name from the rather damning claims, and after mostly being withdrawn from the internet altogether, returned at the end of the year to participate in an interview with his vociferous detractor. Once the pleasantries are out the way, Colossal wastes no time and jumps in with the classic hardball.
LionMaker, are you sexually attracted to children?
No.
You are not?
No.
What age would you consider a child? Below 16?
Now, on principle, it's hard to really see how else LionMaker would have replied to this. If he wants to defend his dignity, then of course he's going to deny such a serious implication. But then Colossal jumps in with a more clarificatory question.
What age would you consider a child? Below 16?
If we go children, I'd say 11, 12. I would consider a child, and then starting from that, preteen.
But you wouldn't consider a 13, 14 a child?
No, a child, yes. No, I see what you're doing here, but at the end of the day,
it's a very important question.
No, in this instance here, Colossal's intent isn't necessarily to show LionMaker as a child predator, but to show how he builds perspective on the basis of how he can plausibly defend himself, with follow-up questions attacking the seemingly illogical postulation that someone aged 13 or 14 couldn't be considered a child, with lines to him backtracking and realizing what he's been caught in. This sets the tone for the interview, a proverbial minefield which has LionMaker stumbling around the numerous traps that could incriminate him in a situation where many had already drawn their conclusions.
Yes,
the age gap. Paige the Panda was 16 years of age when you started an intimate online relationship with her. Correct me if I'm wrong. And the age gap has always been very kind of mixed up there, if you like. And the age of consent laws in the United Kingdom, as you rightly said in a video once, are 16 and over. That's the age of consent. It depends on the country. But what I'm trying to get from you here is, what do you consider a child to be? What age?
One of the key issues at hand was the alleged relationship with Paige the Panda. LionMaker was clearly hoping for the opportunity to tell his side of the story, and jumped to the chance to answer a mostly rather clear question with a long-winded spiel about the details of their correspondence.
Well, first of all, I just want to clarify that what I did and what I said at the time when I made my video explaining that my relationship and my intimate relationship with Paige the Panda, the point that I was stressing at the time was the legality of things. Now, what also built up to me saying those things is also a story that I'd like to put to light so that people can understand why I made that decision at the time.
However, 2.5 minutes later, and he still hasn't responded to the question at hand, prompting Colossal to be a bit more direct in his interrogation.
What do you define as an intimate relationship then? I'm not quite following what you're saying. I mean, you described your relationship with Paige the Panda as intimate, right? So what did that encompass? Did she, at any point in time, send you naked pictures of herself? No. She at no point sent you a naked picture ever?
No.
Did she ever have a sexual conversation with you?
No. No.
Not once?
Not sexual, no. No.
There was never any talk about sex? Nothing of that nature whatsoever?
And I'm happy you asked.
Then why
Not with me.
Look, why on earth did you call it an intimate relationship?
One of the focal points of this stage is the nature of the relationship. LionMaker previously framed it as intimate, rightfully causing some uproar when you consider Paige's age. Colossal hones in on this, pushing LionMaker to eventually admit this mistake as it gradually dawns on him that this is the beneficial thing to do. At this stage, Lion was boldly denying any actual romantic intimacy between himself and Paige, yet his terminology would confuse many.
You and I both know, despite what a lot of people think, that you're an intelligent person. Why on earth did you call it an intimate relationship?
Because at the time, that felt like the right thing to do, and I was.
But if it's not true, then why did you say it?
Because, again,
in the hopes of what?
It just
proves other people's points. But it wouldn't deviate from anything. You're basically confirming other people's suspicions by saying it was an intimate relationship. I don't understand the logic. Was that a mistake to call it an intimate relationship then?
Yeah, of course. Undoubtedly.
I'm not here to analyze the whole interview step by step, as we'd be here for a very long time, and I'm not entirely sure how I could cope with that. But at this point, it should be clear that both Colossal and LionMaker have very different aims for the planned proceedings of this dialogue, with Colossal using it as an attempt to extract some clarity from the matter, and LionMaker utilizing it as a vehicle to plead his case, and victimhood, evidence that to him has been scrambled together to provide the illusion of a cohesive case.
Everything is against me. It would be so easy for anyone that's got anything concrete or substantial on me to just go ahead and say it and just add to that pile. But it's not the case. You guys have been spinning around in circles with little stories that then arise out of nowhere that got nothing to do with anything, but let's tie it together with the whole bigger picture and make this pile of evidence when it's not.
At the same time, LionMaker wants to tell this anecdote that paints him as a guy who was out here, being open, trying to create a community which was accessible to all, and in turn was taken advantage of because of that honesty. As a general story goes, it's all very earnest.
I was always very open. I came in the community 3-4 years ago, seeing all these cliques and these groups, and I came and I was like, you know what, let's just bring everyone together. Let's just be a part of something all together, work all together, build the community, make something great, make something big. So I was always very, very open to have anybody join because I had no reason to be like, no, I don't pick you, I'll pick you. No, I was open to anything and everyone because I never had any ill intentions towards anyone. It was always in good spirit, always in the mindset that I just wanted to do something for the community. No, I want you to. It's not a coincidence, Colossal, because these people, this is what they do.
But there's so many of them.
No, but these individuals, these individuals that if you took the time to look into each single one of them, you would see what kind of people they are. It's not a coincidence that these specific people are coming out with these supposed stories. At a time, Henry HD and Destin were plotting against me. They were together. Now they hate each other and don't even want to talk to each other. And this is all things that I gathered from yesterday, that I went to go check Henry's Twitter to see what he's tweeting. And again, it's just nothing that these kids do makes sense. I am doing the best that I can to try and get some sort of justice or rectification for what has happened to me in the past year. This is not to discuss whether I'm going to win this case or lose this case, or whether what Keemstar did was right or whether it was wrong. I have to do something. I'm in a position where everyone is attacking me on a constant basis, and these people are unwilling to take me to court for all these things that I'm supposedly doing. I am the one taking them to court. How does that even make sense?
However, LionMaker often doesn't want to reveal information or make concessions which may compromise his defense. At the same time, he also does not want to be caught in explicit lies where he knows contradictory information is already readily available to the public. So when combined with Colossal's inherent desire to establish a bona fide truth, this causes highly ambiguous answers from our interviewee, which will have Colossal and many audience members rather exasperated.
It's hard
Can we call it a romantic relationship?
It's difficult to say. I mean, the position that I was in. Look, this is where I felt and where I was at with Paige the Panda at the time. All right, when I was together with Paige and she was helping me out, I was very protective of her, and I've always been very, very protective of her in the sense that, for me to start even explaining my relationship with Paige, I'd have to explain to you my relationship with most people. I would do anything to protect my friends. And at the time, because of the situation that was growing around Paige that even has nothing to do with me, hence why the deviation of the attention towards her and towards her having anything to do with anything, it was better, I thought at the time, to concentrate and say, okay, it's me, it's my fault, I'm the adult, I'm saying it. And it was stupid because there's so much more to that. There is so much more to that because at the time, Paige the Panda was in a relationship, but not with me. So the whole thing where trying to figure out whether I had a romance with Paige or whether I was intimate with Paige is to me is irrelevant. And I understand that for you guys, it's become the main thing and the only thing that can be talked about. Because that's where the whole spectacle was made around. But none of the things that actually happened that day had anything to do with me, aside from the fact that I was used.
In some cases, inertia prevails, and LionMaker ends up making a completely different point to the one that was often being discussed, often finding a route back to this idea that the cases are just not well-founded. He clearly thought about what he was going to say, as some of these points hold some logical water if you remove them from the context, but ultimately means nothing when you consider the greater surroundings and circumstances.
But you've been kind enough to label me the king of manipulators. And when you do that, Colossal, there's absolutely nothing I can do or nothing I can say that's not going to be like, well, he is a manipulator. So if he's swaying me, if he's changing my mind, it's simply because he's a manipulator, and that's what he does. So again, you're putting me in a position right now where I have to sit here and act like I'm manipulating a whole situation when that's not even the case, because that situation was not like that. That situation was made like that by you guys.
Sure, calling someone the king of manipulation does make it harder for them to be believed if they make compelling arguments. But being a master manipulator assumes that you'd be able to make somewhat cohesive statements relating to your conduct, and merely means that people should take your statements with a pinch of salt. It doesn't mean that your evidence would be dismissed. Now, this may be one of LionMaker's more solid defenses. However, in other cases, his attempts to go off on rants fall flat on their face, such as this one.
But these are three people that you do know. So you see,
no, I do not know them. I know of them. They're supporters. There's so many supporters that I recognize, that I know in the sense I know who they are. I know that they watch my channel. I know that they're a part of the community, but I do not know these people.
You don't know Croc Plays? You've never done a video with Croc Plays?
No, they have been in my videos, of course.
Okay, so you know them.
Colossal.
LionMaker says there are all these allegations from these people he doesn't know, what seems to be another premeditated polemic against his accusers. But Colossal stops him dead in his tracks with a solid counterexample that he can't contest, forcing LionMaker to change his line of attack and showing the futility of whatever point he was attempting to make in that moment.
If it is a coincidence at all, it's not a coincidence.
It's not a coincidence.
Wait, it's not a coincidence. What do you mean it's not a coincidence? I mean, it's a massive coincidence. All these people, there's again, files are top files. We've only covered 2 so far. These are all the people that are saying stuff about you. All in your videos, all knew you. It is a coincidence. You've got to say that.
No, it's not.
It can't not be a coincidence if it's not true. That all these people, different people, not just one person, Loads of different people are saying.
No.
Having all the evidence in one place provides the opportunity for Colossal to really drive home the compelling nature of its constitutive value. However, LionMaker takes aim at a lot of the claims, often trying to separate them and deconstruct this idea that their assembly gives them any more credibility.
Let's just say, for convenience, right, that you're saying this. Let's assume this is real for a second. I'm not saying it is, but let's assume it is. Why the change of heart? Why would Henry do this to you and then change his mind? What was the purpose?
Why am I being asked such questions, Colossal? How am I supposed to know or even understand?
Well, it's
why
quite
these
simple. You
people
would
are
ask
doing
him,
this?
because if he had this change of heart, my first fucking question would be, why did you do this to me?
One of the greatest issues, though, is the lack of real understanding between either side involved in the discourse, often inflamed by LionMaker's complacency and incredulity shown towards a lot of the allegations. It's clear that there was no evidence shared between parties prior to the interview, which is completely understandable given the topics at hand, but can also be a detriment when parties are presenting new evidence that may contain information that they have no chance to fully understand the context of. So sometimes there'll be clear confusion, which muddies the verification process of a lot of this content. LionMaker is already not one for direct answers, so this certainly doesn't help.
He went back and forth. It was at certain times he had enough evidence to go against me, and I better talk to him and add him on Skype so that we can arrange something, and then he wouldn't go up in front with evidence, blah blah blah. And then he switched. Oh, I'm so sorry, LionMaker. I know it's not true. I was pushed into it. I was forced into it. Look.
So it's all false. He made it up. You fabricated everything.
LionMaker does present counter-evidence at points, but they're often inconclusive, and even then, when pressed on this, he seems hesitant to actually confirm what they mean for the case against him. He seems so set on not deviating from the plan he has in his mind that he sometimes fails to follow through on points you'd assume he was trying to make already.
The reason that I cannot do anything but grin is that this is just, once again, a perfect example of something piling up in that made-up linear line of you guys of things that I have consecutively done. So I'm going to ask you a question, Colossal, because it's getting to a point where we're piling up all these informations. You know, what made me want to do this interview, Colossal, with you is because after seeing your FuzzyTube video, which that was a masterpiece, all right? And I'm not here to lick your rectum, but that was a masterpiece, and you did that very thoroughly. And that made me realize something. That made me realize that you do not do things half done.
There are moments where LionMaker attempts to wrestle control of the conversation himself, even asking Colossal questions at one point. One of the problems, though, is that it's often so unprovoked that it seems like he's been planning it and doesn't know how to effectively segue onto such a tangent, adding a level of contrivance and undermining any potential sincerity that could be drawn from it by the average viewer. It often seems that LionMaker had only planned for what he was going to say and not how Colossal was going to ask questions or even reply. And although you obviously can't predict that, being able to defend yourself under questioning matters as much as being able to prepare any statement at all. With that said, there are times where it seems that he may have had the upper hand from these interactions.
So please tell me, when you did the video on me, other than the things that you found that Keemstar was saying, what else did you find on me? What else am I doing that is so wrong, that is so bad and so alarming?
I can give you the answer right now. I did not find anything. Anything extra, because if I had, I would have included it in the video. Is the answer to that. Now I'm just going to find this Skype message for you.
So I'm happy that you say that, in the sense that you agree that the video that you made contains everything and anything that people have been accusing me of. So what is this?
But in a way, here, for example, it's just Colossal being honest, because LionMaker's question implies an assumption that Colossal's video didn't include well-substantiated allegations, or just what other people said wasn't enough. However, even if you disregard some of the more serious claims which do sit on somewhat disputed foundations, the original upload already deals with stern allegations of predatory behavior that LionMaker appeared to have confessed to previously, the contents of which was what Colossal was trying to discern in a lot of his questions.
She'll be able to tell you who he was. Isn't she pissed that allegedly her ex-boyfriend posted her rectum on Twitter? I think I would be a bit pissed if someone posted my bottom on Twitter.
She's more than pissed, Colossal. She's broken because of it.
All right. So why doesn't she tell you who the boyfriend is? Apparently, you don't know who he is. You want to take him to court? If this is all about justice for you, why aren't you getting justice for Paige? Apparently, you're selfish enough just to get justice for you. If you're so close, if you're in an intimate relationship with Paige the Panda, why aren't you taking him to court?
At points in the interview, LionMaker tries to place himself on a moral pedestal, occasionally tone policing and pledging respect to Paige's perspective.
So, explain the situation. What happened? How did Paige the Panda's asshole end up on your Twitter?
I really would appreciate, I understand that, for your channel, but please do not.
This isn't for my channel. This is a fact.
I understand that. But
a 16-year-old girl's asshole was posted on your Twitter. But you want me to dial down the words?
No, it's not that. It's disrespecting. It's disrespecting a young girl that's already been through enough.
This can be juxtaposed with Colossal's rather unceremonious phraseology, with LionMaker even going out of his way to criticize Colossal at points for his abruptness. He says he's doing this on behalf of the affected party, but one can't help but feel that these specifics of this situation may make old Alcatraz land here just a little uncomfortable.
But these are the facts. You want me to say
no? You're focusing the whole thing. You're focusing the whole thing around a teenage girl. You're focusing the whole thing.
But this is what happened, LionMaker.
It's not what happened. It's not what happened. It's not.
Do you deny that a picture of this girl, Paige the Panda's, what should we call it? What do we call this? A rectum was posted on your Twitter account. Let's just state it how it is. That is a fact.
No, I do not deny that. I do not deny that.
This is ultimately just part of a greater disruption tactic which tries to hinder Colossal in his quest for the truth.
I mean, I find it interesting that, because obviously I've got some files here of you being accused of being a hacker and allegedly you paying someone to hack someone's Twitter.
So wait, hold on. Wait, but am I a hacker or did I pay someone to hack?
That was the question. That was the question.
Which one is it?
Well, if you're paying someone to hack, you're not a hacker yourself because you don't know how to do it, therefore you're paying them. But that was my question to you. All I asked was, have you hacked anyone in the past or paid someone to hack someone?
No. It's funny how we have all these conversations that I've had with people, and
well, I mean, this is going to be my point.
You just proved that this whole thing that we're about to talk about doesn't even make sense. I'm a hacker, but I asked someone to hack me. So which one is it? So we have to figure out.
The question was very simple. Have you ever hacked someone yourself, or have you paid someone to hack someone? It was two separate things. Okay. It's a very simple question which encompasses both things.
No, because I'm being accused of both.
A lot of times where LionMaker does not want to answer the question, he often instead chooses to interrupt Colossal, trying to pick apart the components of the question itself, sometimes with the intent of discrediting it or its underlying content by showing its fabric as flawed, or going off on some tangent, making him seem even more insipid than normal, which is already a high bar for LionMaker, I will add.
I've seen the stupid pictures where they compare a background that I posted,
I'm glad
that people did that. I'm glad people did that because that steps on my point. I very, very often take pictures of my background and share them in Gyazos, share them with friends, share them because I'm showing things. I'm a YouTuber, you're a YouTuber, and I'm sure you also very often take pictures, screenshots of your computer and share them with people.
In the forthcoming clip that we will discuss, Colossal implies the perpetrator of the nudes incident must have been pretty smart to implicate LionMaker by directly replicating a screenshot of his desktop background in the incriminating images. LionMaker in turn replies, asking if they really needed to be that smart.
So you are insinuating that this boyfriend, fucking genius, mastermind, Machiavellian genius, actually thought to make it look like you were doing this, actually had the human brain capacity.
Why would you need a human brain? Why would you need a human brain to come up?
It's a very, very clever move.
Considering the position, the position that I was already in.
That he was okay, but to see the future in the fact that two people would match the two backgrounds together is a crazy move.
Now, whether his interjection is correct or not, I personally say it isn't, but I suppose it's possible. It breaks up the flow of any discourse, and instead of receiving an answer as to why someone would go to these lengths to frame LionMaker, we then have to deal with a further 2 minutes from Colossal explaining exactly what he means, even though LionMaker knows exactly what he means, and Colossal knows that as well. It's just he wasn't going to be outflanked by the cowardly lion. Nevertheless, you can take a lion to water, but you cannot make it drink. And even after this, we are once more given another ham-fisted answer related to the hate campaign against our poor Flemish friend here. Another strategy LionMaker employed was stalling, which becomes even more obvious when you're as impatient as me.
Paige the Panda, she took this picture of herself. She can only send it to X amount of people.
She did not take that picture of herself.
Okay, who took the picture of her?
Look, you're asking me questions that it's not up to me to answer.
It's a fairly simple question. She must have known
it's not up
this
to
picture
me
was
to
being
answer.
taken of
It's
her.
not
She was
up to me
posing
to
for
answer
it.
those questions.
For example, Colossal asserts that the explicit image published to Lion's Twitter must have been taken by Paige herself, and Lion denies this, which, although more than within his prerogative to do so, certainly decreases the number of possible explanations for how the situation in question transpired. Colossal stresses this and applies pressure to Lion once more. However, instead of answering, Lion once again picks apart the construct of Colossal's question, rather pointlessly, I will add.
I'm sorry, but it is because it was on your Twitter account and this is what you're being accused of. So you are asked to answer this question.
No. Let's make something very, very clear, Colossal. I am not being accused of absolutely nothing. It's not because you guys decided to make it as if it were an accusation and you're accusing me of doing such thing. That does not mean that I'm being accused of doing that. I have never been accused of doing that.
And goes on a rant about something. I mean, who gives a fucking shit? After this diatribe about how the police were involved and how he was completely innocent, he suddenly solves the mystery of who took the photo, stating that actually it was obvious and he had already implied it, with reference to the elusive former boyfriend of Paige the Panda.
Who took the picture then?
Initially, I said, and I specifically said, and people can rewind if they want, I said at the time Paige the Panda was in a relationship. So to answer your question, it was probably very likely.
So it was her boyfriend that you're saying took this picture.
Probably very likely, yes.
He definitely did not imply it, I'll add. In fact, the boyfriend had only been previously spoken about to try and downplay the idea that Lion and Paige were in a relationship themselves. Now, for someone who knew so little about the photo to be able to deduce who took it and for it to be this mysterious unnamed party who he can't implicate directly is awfully convenient. In this instance, LionMaker frames it as if he said it earlier to avoid the fact he clearly took a couple minutes to think of an explanation, filling it with worthless drivel about how people accusing him didn't mean he was facing accusations, which I thought that was how it worked.
I'm facing something that is surreal to me. It's like, for example, let's go back to the boyfriend. No, to the boyfriend that I strongly believe did the thing on Twitter. Mm-hmm. That's again a case where, because of the already situation that I was in, it was very easy to create a situation in the position that he was in, knowing everything that was going on and having access not only to Paige's Twitter, but also to Paige's other accounts. And Paige the Panda, for example, she had access to my Twitter because I gave her the permission, because from time to time she would help me with like comments or people tweeting me.
Another 10 minutes later, after becoming suddenly impatient over questioning regarding evidence that he denies the verity of, he has magically formulated a much more concrete explanation for exactly how this boyfriend obtained access to his Twitter. Now, if we go back 10 minutes ago, he was clearly lost to exactly how this happened, but now the time has elapsed and he has been able to think of a worthy version of events that adds up. This would have been a reasonable response if he had come up with it on the spot, but the fact that he dragged Colossal back to it after the question has closed out shows that he's aware of the holes in his account and is trying to plug them with details that, if they were the case, he'd have thought about months ago. However, Colossal rebuts this with another pretty solid observation.
That you're insinuating the boyfriend got hold of, had the access to your Twitter through Paige the Panda, posted this picture. It just doesn't explain the background. Not at all, unless he fabricated that part in, and I just find that very difficult to believe.
And his retort is rendered once more mostly useless.
The boyfriend took this picture of Paige the Panda posing nude. Okay? So this boyfriend, how old is the boyfriend, by the way?
The boy that she was with at the time, they were similar age. They were a similar age.
So 16. Okay, 16, 17. All right.
This anonymous boyfriend is a constant scapegoat for LionMaker throughout the first part of the interview and other parts as well, and serves as a purpose consistent with many of his previous explanations. These sorts of unfalsifiable entities: hacker, blackmailer, butcher, baker, candlestick maker, etc. Ultimately, we cannot definitively disprove their existence. However, on the basis of plausibility, it's more likely these characters have been concocted because they can reflect his pattern of behavior, which at the same time he visibly does not want to take responsibility for, not to mention the fact that he can't actually prove their culpability either.
Why not, for example, me go and sue the kid that used my Twitter and posted things? I have no evidence of that. All I have is my suspicion and what I have added together. But I have no evidence that he did that. Because I have no evidence on who he is, there's no point in me taking him to court because it's already difficult.
Ask Paige.
Now, when you bring it back to Lion's ostensible frustration as to why they're even here having this conversation, if Colossal didn't find anything outside of what other people were saying, you see there actually is a discussion to be had, especially given the fact that Lion has changed his explanations since the last time he had publicly spoken on the matter.
All right, let me just read this out. Need a hacker. You any good? Question mark. Sure. Why do you need a hacker? People have accused you of hacking. And can we say this is not the only time? I'm not going to read them all out. Can we say this is not the only time that you've been accused of hacking? This instance.
Yeah. I was also accused for having hacked a credit card so that I supposedly could get €7 phone card in Belgium.
Mm-hmm.
Am I the only one to see how ridiculous these things are? That if you take everything and put it all together and make context out of it, then I can see where you guys see a picture. But none of these things that are being said, none of these things that you're reading out to me,
they're all fabricated, they're all edited.
It adds up beautifully for you guys.
When being asked about the claim being made, Lion will sometimes appeal to more absurd examples, before saying, this is why the allegations are incorrect. This is obviously an intentional straw man. Of course, there will be some instances where assertions are made which seem more dubious. However, this does not discredit the allegations as a whole, and appealing to an example of a wrong claim does not undermine other claims unless you can prove an intrinsic connection in the rationale behind them.
Are you an unstable person?
Am I an unstable person? That is such a... Yes, I am.
By the halfway mark, Lion seems overwhelmed by Colossal's relentless nature and is beginning to wane in energy. Colossal's style of asking some questions first and allowing their purpose to become clear in time erodes Lion's defenses on a lot of points pretty effectively. In the previous clip, you'll see that LionMaker admits to being a mentally unstable individual. In this situation, one might praise him for being honest about his mental state, and they proceed to have a pretty good discussion about his disorder. However, not too soon after, Colossal flips the application of this point, using it to illustrate Lion's unfit nature to be around children in a community like Minecraft, placing Lion's whole career into contention. This obviously causes Lion to switch viewpoints, now pledging that he is not unstable, but revealing the opportune nature of this response and allowing Massive is Mental to identify the inconsistency.
You have them on Xbox Live calls, wherever. You're speaking with them. Do you see my point here? A self-admitted mentally unstable person.
I'm not
problem with alcohol abuse.
I have BPD. That does not make me a mentally unstable person.
You admitted it. I asked the question. But whatever.
LionMaker entered this interview the underdog for many viewers, myself included, and therefore it's difficult to say that it really destroyed his credibility for most, when he had relatively little to begin with. As mentioned, this was his chance to tell an alternative story by casting enough doubt on the allegations against him. However, in attempting to rationalize and humanize some of his conduct, he similarly probabilized many of the key charges, this being perfectly encapsulated in one quote.
And perhaps you did some stupid things when you were drunk, in a Skype call with a child. Like, that is a possibility. Maybe you don't even remember it, like you didn't remember the night you got taken to prison, which you admitted mere moments earlier. Perhaps you don't remember these Skype conversations. Perhaps it's just another case of that. You know what I'm saying makes sense.
You're making it make sense, Colossal.
Colossal makes it make sense because, to an extent, it does make sense. Now, the mental afflictions and addictions that LionMaker was experiencing does not guarantee the allegations' accuracy. But for Lion to dismiss them with such confidence and certainty before struggling to recall many circumstantial details and conceding that there are behavioral issues that could well presuppose such conduct seems transparently erratic and seems to reinforce my perspective of this interview.
LionMaker, are you sexually attracted to children?
This is not really the trial of LionMaker on the basis of the allegations against him, because we all knew that he was going to deny them as vehemently as he always did, but moreover a trial to see how he adjusted himself to the information placed in front of him, a test of his character, one that LionMaker mostly fails because he has too many separate agendas to defend, which end up coming into conflict with each other. However, he does remain stubbornly tied to many of the points, which seems daft, even when he appears to have lost ground on them.
It's not the case. You guys have been spinning around in circles with little stories that then arise out of nowhere that got nothing to do with anything, but let's tie it together with the whole bigger picture and make this pile of evidence when it's not. Again, not a coincidence. These kids are all part of the same group, same little scheme of people. And the reason why sometimes I show you like the same kids with different emails is because eventually I do block them because they keep harassing me, they keep trying to antagonize me. I block them, they make new emails to keep on dragging on the thing. And why? It adds up beautifully for you guys because there's this beautiful flow of information that's all tied to one another. Well, LionMaker, you did say you were an alcoholic.
One of them
I mean, you did say you're an alcoholic, so I mean, it does tie into what you said. You know, you said you had anger issues and that you don't quite remember what you said. So, you know, you got you just got drunk and you asked this and you don't remember. I mean, it all adds up, doesn't it?
Decent assumption to make, yeah.
This whole thing that, you know, like the label that I got, King of Manipulation, all that, if I'm that great, if I'm that smart, if I'm all that, why is it that none of the things that are being said are even linear or make sense? Specifically that hacking situation, that just doesn't add up.
He also flip-flops on the nature of the allegations, these pairs of comments being a few minutes apart. One moment it's a bunch of disconnected allegations being spun by commentators, and then it's an actual conspiracy manufactured by all these accusers. One moment it's all these allegations that come together so conveniently, the next moment they don't come together at all. It just seems like sometimes he was making it up as he was going along and struggling to adapt to the evolving talking points.
And yet you're the one suing Keemstar.
Yeah, but and I find you're making it as if I am suing Keemstar because of the specificness of what he said in his videos.
Why are you suing him then?
He not only did he defame me, but he brought hell to my life. He literally brought hell to my life.
So that is
not to be put in comparison when I tried to make a video defending myself, trying to bring facts to the table and bring things that I have added up, and I think, like, let's look at this from my perspective. And you want to compare that? You want to compare that?
As the interview went on, he struggles more and more. With all that said, if you were an ardent LionMaker fan, you could probably make a case to defend your beloved idol for a majority of the debate. His tone of disbelief towards many of the allegations could be perceived as genuine. At this point in time, he hadn't been convicted of anything, and as said, the individual arguments could come across as plausible if you went in with the assumption that he was genuinely innocent. If you like LionMaker, you could say he held his own. Unfortunately, though, there was one thing: he failed so badly that even the most blind, brainwashed supporter could not defend him all.
Let's get back onto Paige the Panda. Are you in a relationship with Paige the Panda at the moment?
No.
Not at all.
We're friends. We're in contact, but we're not in a relationship, no.
You'd obviously not say you're in a romantic or intimate relationship at any point now. She's 17 now, yeah. Would you start an intimate relationship with Paige the Panda when she turns 18?
No.
I mean, I find it interesting that you didn't dispute my point in the video, because obviously this was a main point.
The age gap question. Now, earlier, LionMaker's relationship with Paige had been discussed, with Lion understating it, even denying it, basically, with reference to the incident and her mysterious boyfriend who had obtained access to his Twitter account. However, here Colossal wanted to delve into the morality of LionMaker's hypothetical relationship with Paige, given the rather significant age gap between the two, seeking an admission of the fact that it was indeed a very depraved dynamic to have.
So you agree that you as a 28-year-old, 28 years old now, you're the same age as me, that being in a relationship with a 16-year-old, 17 now, is completely fucked. Like, the age gap is just enormous. Like, it's sick. Can we agree that?
The age gap is a different question, but yes,
Well,
a 16. No, the age gap is a different question because my mom and my father, they had 20 years difference. But in the specificness of when a kid is 16, 17, they are still in a developing stage where the front of their brain and their cognitiveness and their impulses are not yet mature enough for them to be able to make choices.
Perfect.
Given that they were not at that point in a relationship and LionMaker had denied it, many would have assumed it would have been easy for Lion to concede that it was a morally corrupt affair. And at first it seemed he was going in that direction, but when being asked the question more bluntly, he appeared to retreat from that point.
Well, let's use me. Let's put me on the chopping block. I'm 28 years old. If I was to start a relationship with a 16-year-old girl, would you say that was fucked up?
Look, Colossal, that's...
Why don't you answer that question?
No, because you're asking moral questions, and I don't want to play that game.
This is a moral question.
No, but I don't want to play that game. If you want to ask me, look, if you want to ask me, like, how would you feel? Like, for example, me, I have 3 sisters, all right? One's 22, one's 11, and one is 10 years old. I would never, in the life that I live now, be okay with any of them at any point in time being 16 and being with someone that's even 18 or 19. I would not be cool with that.
It's not my question.
So if you want to hear my morality about things, I am not okay with that.
Yeah, but
that is
your
not
sisters.
okay.
We're not talking about your fucking sisters. We're talking about me.
Here he provides a series of extremely political answers, dancing around the matter and attempting to create these alternative realities. But when being confronted more frankly on the point, he fails to respond adequately multiple times, probably provoking the most opinionated statement from Colossal throughout the whole 2-hour session.
If I'm a 28-year-old man and I'm in a relationship with a 16-year-old, is that wrong?
Who am I to judge? I'm
you
not.
You can't judge. It's an opinion. It's a moral question.
No. I'm not playing this game, Colossal.
It's not a game. It's not a game.
It is.
This is a genuine moral question.
No, this is not a genuine question because this is
I don't know why you're dodging it.
I'm not dodging it. I just gave you where I stand. I just told you where I stand. If I know who's involved, I don't know you from Adam and Eve. I wouldn't know the girl that you're with from Adam and Eve. I don't know your story. I don't know what is going on.
Is it a moral problem for me, a 28-year-old man, to date a 16-year-old? Because I said it about you. I said you were 27, she was 16. I'd said that was fucked up and wrong and sick. You can say the same for me. If I'm in a relationship with a 16-year-old, I'm 28, same age as you. Is that fucked up? It's a very, very simple question. You only have to answer yes or no.
I don't, Colossal, because it's
I find it interesting that you're dodging that question when it's a very simple question.
I'm not dodging the question.
I don't think you can answer it. I think your moral compass is completely fucked and you can't answer it. That's what I think. You physically cannot answer that question.
Now, Colossal puts his question forward quite plainly, which is completely within his rights to. LionMaker wants to have a more philosophical discussion, which I will happily entertain that with this version of himself. Because even if we do entertain this, I still strongly disagree that you cannot provide a judgment on such a statement. The question asked related back to the age between two parties. You can, definitely, in my opinion, pass judgment on an age gap. You don't have to know the parties involved, nor do you have to pass judgment on them personally. Does that mean there can't be situations where the older party may actually be taken advantage of if someone is impaired in a way? Does that mean you'll be able to pass concise character readings on the people based on the age gap alone? No, but the question didn't dismiss either of these clauses. The question asked quite simply, is such an age gap on principle wrong? And would it be morally fucked to act on that? And those are quite simple questions which you can give quite a simple answer to, and most people would.
You're putting me in a... No, because the thing you need to realize, Colossus, is that you also don't know me from... You don't know me from Adam and Eve, and you don't know who I know in my life.
I don't
and
care. You're a 27-year-old man dating a 16-year-old. That is fucked up.
LionMaker tries to make it this complex ethical discussion, but it's really not. You don't have to know someone to know that such a relationship would be wrong. You don't even have to think that an individual involved is a bad person. But Lion just adopts this very weird middle-of-the-road position when there's a very clear moral dichotomy in many viewers' minds. As a spectator in that moment, you wouldn't know why he would say that he wouldn't do it personally, but yet try to make the case that there would still be times when it would be hard to comment. It just seems like he's taking allowances for letting such antics happen all over again, and it just destroys any trust you have in his word.
It's unbelievable that you can't answer it.
I answered your question. It's not. I answered your question.
Not really.
I answered your question.
But let's move on.
At that point, LionMaker lost the plea he was trying to make. For many, he'd lost it a long time ago, but I think that was the final nail in the coffin. And with that, they appear to conclude on the note that Lion was actually never in a relationship with Paige the Panda. A bold but conclusive statement to end on.
I would never have been in a relationship with Paige the Panda. I would have never have been in a relationship with anyone that was substantially younger than me. That's never been the case.
Right.
So let's wrap this up.
The thing is, I didn't get to give my side of things, Colossal. I didn't even get to say anything. Like, all that was brought up was all the same crap that keeps piling up after
What would you like
thing
to
after
say?
thing.
Okay.
So when I'm put in a position where I have to continuously just
No. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up, man. This actually goes on for another 30 minutes, with LionMaker ruining the whole interview because it didn't go how he wanted it to. Remember what I said earlier about Lion trying to take control of the interview? Well, given the fact that he mostly failed, now it's over, he's going to take the time to lament all the chances that he didn't get.
No, I didn't. To be honest, I didn't.
Well, how do you think it was going to go?
Well, I thought that in some way or some shape or form, you know, you'd be more interested in what I had to say rather than.
I am interested in what you have to say. That's why I'm hearing you out.
It was
But
more.
you thought I was going to take your side.
No, I
don't understand what you could have wanted from me.
Start at the beginning, you know, like why did this whole thing add up and snowball effect to what it is? Like you only talked about the avalanche, and if I'm in the middle of that avalanche, what am I supposed to do? Like there's a whole, this thing started somewhere, all right?
I mean, what an entitled little brat. If he wanted to make a video extensively covering the allegations in his own style, he still had his own channel perfectly intact at that point. He literally agreed to an interview with a person who had been a vocal critic. He wasn't going to have a naturally smooth ride, easy, open questions. Ooh, LionMaker, what's your perfect Sunday? Get over yourself, man. I realize I'm being annoyed by what is now a quite outdated interview, but it still irritates me to watch someone victimize themselves so egregiously after a fairly substandard performance. Yet, even that said, with the flaw, he still struggles to impart anything of substance, mostly just rambling incoherently, rehashing points he'd already made earlier on in the interview.
Why? Why nothing? Why nothing? Nothing. Zero. Not a single thing. Not even a call to court or a call to testify or a call to give my version. Nothing. In real life, I am as innocent and as free as can be. And here on the internet, I'm this demonized person because there's so much evidence that I did what I did.
Yeah.
I live in two worlds. I live in two different worlds where the real world looks at the situation and goes like, well, there's nothing here. But the internet has managed to somehow piece everything together and create something that apparently I need to go to jail for.
It's the same routine bullshit. It is nauseating. It's just because Colossal's out of questions, Lion has the floor to spray fire arguments until a few of them go places. That one being the classic, the police haven't prosecuted me yet, so how can I be guilty line, which will age like fine wine, I'll add. However, he does have one original statement he wishes to make, a thespian monologue, which encompasses what he really wants from this interview.
I thought you in some shape or form like would have been the best person to do it, because when I refused, like, well, when I told you that I wasn't going to go through with the initial interview that we had planned, after that you didn't antagonize me. You didn't add more hell to my life. You didn't keep twirling around the situation. To me, the reason I wanted to do this is because I need closure. I need closure more than anything. I don't want people to know how badly I'm affected by this, because that gives them the power, that gives them the strength, and that makes them feel righteous about what they've done to my life. I never let myself be interviewed. I never let myself be grinded or be, have this what we did. So I thought, you know what? I'm gonna do it. To if this is gonna make things worse, if this is gonna make things better, I'm gonna do it. I need closure. I don't think things can go any worse than what they have. I've already lost everything. There's nothing left for me to lose here. So for me, it's I want to move on. I want to absolutely move on from all this.
He wants closure from all the misery he has been subjected to, all the suffering he has experienced, and Colossal, he understands that. He didn't torment the besieged creator. Colossal gave him breathing space, and finally, a platform to defend himself. And at the end, all he wanted was the final word.
Oh yeah, because I know what happened. I know what is happening. I can show. I have nothing to hide. I have nowhere to go. Why don't I pack my bags and go? I don't have to. I haven't done anything. I haven't harassed anyone. I haven't asked anyone for nudes. I haven't asked any kids for nudes. I haven't asked any adults for nudes. I haven't asked anything for nudes. I haven't asked any fucking dogs for nudes. I haven't asked anyone for anything.
With the power of hindsight, obviously these statements look a bit flimsy, but back then they were the defiant entreaty of a creator who had faced down some of the most merciless public condemnation of his time. And although personally I was sick to shit of him, there was likely still a lingering curiosity of what was to come. It's true, he still hadn't been convicted of anything, and none of the allegations had been formally verified, in spite of his rather dubious explanation.
This for you, you are innocent until proven guilty. Now, people could say whatever they want. They could say, I think you are a pedophile, and I'm going to say it. I think you are. I think you are guilty of some of these things that accuse you. I'm sorry, I think you are. I know that doesn't help you. I know that's hard to hear.
The truth was, almost anyone watching knew they weren't receiving the full story. LionMaker's responses would leave more questions than answers. He seemed to often think of rationalizations on the spot, conjured up theories that contradicted themselves, regularly stalled for time, and applied the most basic transparent fallacies that would win over few but the most undemanding supporters. Ultimately, however, only time would tell how much of his testimony truly held water, and how much of it was just smoke and mirrors.
Now, Paige the Panda and myself, we have never physically met. Like, we've never seen each other in real life.
Speaking of time, I think I've taken up my fair share, so I'll pass it back to you, Mr. Aubrey. I'm the right opinion, and this has been the death of me.
I do not want to believe that we live in a world where, fair enough, there are people that can get away with shit, but in a world where the police is pointed in the direction of someone that's got mountains of evidence against them, and they go like, there's nothing there.
Thanks, babe. I already know you're aware of the right opinion, but if you haven't subbed yet, he's almost at 1 million, so let's try and get that to happen, shall we? January 20th, 2018. The LionMaker channel was axed. Countless videos of Marcus attempting to absolve himself of the many accusations thrown against him over the years were gone just like that, in a sad but undoubtedly justified fatal swoop. But at least we had Paige to speak up instead.
This is my video about what happened between LionMaker and me online. I haven't had the chance to tell my side of the story, or my truth, and put it out there. And I know there's obviously going to be people that believe me and that don't. This is it. This is like the final thing I'm going to have to say about this. And I apologise for the quality of the video because there is no guidebook for how I'm supposed to make this.
December 2018. Marcus's former girlfriend, whom he had groomed and abused for roughly 3 years of her life, finally felt comfortable enough to let us in on more of the personal details surrounding their relationship, answering some pretty important questions and outlining the whereabouts of her abuser up until that time.
Did he end up going to jail?
I did. But this was before the whole court thing actually happened. December 2016 till end of September, beginning of October 2017. And then we cut ties in July 2017.
Right off the bat, Paige clarifies that Marcus had actually been arrested, allegedly spending December 2016 to October 2017 behind Belgian bars. For what, you may be asking? Child porn. Yeah, just distribution and possession of child porn. Not to mention sexual assault and rape of a minor, you know, just the classics.
I think it's difficult for any outside person to understand the kind of intensity that was our relationship. There was no chance for me to just be like, I'm done with this, I'm leaving. It's not as simple as just turning your computer off and that being it. This guy was threatening me, threatening to send messages to my family. It just wasn't a healthy relationship that didn't give me the option to leave until we were physically not able to actually get it. Well, he wasn't able to physically get it me while he was in jail, and I was able to kind of realise I needed to get out of that situation.
Paige gives us an idea of her thought process at the time of their situation, with her testimony being not unlike many of those in abusive relationships similar to hers. I can only imagine attempting to escape one of these damaging relationships is an unfathomably painful task on its own, a struggle only amplified when the abuser is a famous, powerful figure with a sea of their own gullible child supporters online.
Can you sort of go into a bit more detail as much as you feel comfortable?
The abuse happened from the age of 14 to 17, and that pretty much was being shouted at, being screamed at, having my name cut into his arm, chairs being thrown out windows, laptops being thrown at walls, being told it was all my fault, him drinking because he knew I hated it, and being an alcoholic and getting angry. He seemed to play off of my fear. He used to scare me and record me crying. I remember one time specifically there. I can't make anyone else aware of what it was like because there was only two of us in that situation. There was him and there was me. And obviously there's an exchange of power considering he's 11 years older than me.
Studies show that victims tend to stay tethered to their abusers mostly out of fear. And if Paige is telling the truth, which she is, Marcus was no stranger to dishing out threats of hurting himself, his body, his property, whenever he felt insecure or worried that his child girlfriend was going to leave him, using her fears and worries to his sickening advantage whenever he had the chance.
I kept working for him because there wasn't really any other choice, and I was young, and it just felt like the whole world was having to protect this person when in fact I should have been protecting myself from this person.
It's complicated because as brutal and disparaging as his behavior was, Paige felt utterly trapped when it came to escaping the man she once adored and cared for.
There was no hacker. It was Marcus.
Why did you lie, or not lie, but support what he said about the hacking?
Because this is somebody that at the time I cared about and thought, again, that I needed to protect and that everyone was against him. I knew the truth, but at that point in my time, I just thought, this is my boyfriend.
Yeah.
When it comes to abusive relationships where one party is blatantly taking advantage of the other, it's crucial for us on the outside to do the best we can to better understand and sympathize with the victim and listen to their testimony. There are two sides to every story, but when the power dynamic is this drastic, I think it's clear which side to take.
We met in November 2015. December 2015 and January 2016. The charges were rape, sexual assault, manufacturing child pornography and distributing child pornography. So he didn't dispute any of the charges, which my lawyer was actually quite surprised at because the kind of person he is, she expected him to plead innocent. I did win the court case, but I guess it all depends on what you consider to be winning. He's got 5 years postponement. If he commits a crime in the next 5 years, or 5 years from the end of the sentencing, he can go to prison for 4 years.
Now this I find fairly telling. After years of vehement denial and viciousness towards his critics and accusers alike, LionMaker actually pled guilty in court. He didn't attempt to fight any of the 4 charges laid against him. Now why would an innocent man give in so easily to accusations of that nature? Why would a man who previously claimed to have done no wrong in the legal eye surrender immediately to such serious and life-altering counts? According to Colossal, the rape part isn't rape in the conventional sense. It's true he didn't exactly hold someone down at gunpoint in a dimly lit parking lot, but what he did to Paige should still very much be considered rape. The sexual assault part you'd think would be covered in the aforementioned charge, but keep in mind, this is Belgian law, which is a bit more complex than what we're used to here. In the official court document obtained by Colossal, sexual assault is defined as violence violent or threatening the person of a minor over the age of 16, which I'd say is a pretty fair analysis. The possession of child pornography not only pertains to the images of Paige plastered across Twitter by Marcus, but over 200 additional pictures and videos total. Now, it's still unclear whether or not these were all children he had personally had contact with, or if it was just general CP, but at that point, it's not like it really fucking matters, does it? Of course, the distribution of it has to do with at least the pictures he posted of Paige, but it's still very well likely that he could have been sending pictures and videos elsewhere in private. He's now pled guilty to all 4 of these, and is still rendered a free man to this day. He lied through his teeth for years at a time as a part of his frivolous attempts to manipulate and twist the situation around, until he finally buckled and realized there's no escaping the reality of what he did. Even just the details of him lying to Colossal about never meeting his 16-year-old girlfriend in person is just further evidence that this piece of excrement is anything but to be trusted.
It's weird, I feel like I'm talking about myself as if I'm another being, but that's the only way I'm able to think of.
Well, in some ways you are, because the person you are today is completely different to what you were before, but that's because your experiences have changed, and I think you've realised that you can be in a relationship and they don't have to be manipulative and controlling.
Equal relationship.
Which is, you know, at 14 you just think that's normal, you think that's what a normal relationship is, but
I think it's one of those things people have to understand. In the beginning, the good outweighed the bad, and then it became a blurred line between what was good and bad, and then it became, this is a nightmare that I can't escape.
Going back to Paige, this was somebody who, at the time, could not comprehend the immense danger such a dynamic implies. Gaslighting is a term often misused nowadays, but ultimately means your perception of the world around you has been severely impaired, sometimes to the point where you no longer know what is healthy for you as an individual. Paige was not only being routinely gaslit by a man she respected and a community she admired, she was also a teenager and had no way to properly gauge what was normal and acceptable in an average relationship. She was inexperienced, naive, and vulnerable for so many reasons, and that is exactly what made her so appealing to someone as inconsiderate and cruel as LionMaker.
So, the 13-year-old girl, I really want to address that, to be honest. I know it's not to do with me, but it's one of those things that I just feel that she deserves to have it known out there to the world that it was him. He was drunk. There were multiple people in the call with him that night, and he was drunk. It's not something that's, you get rid of him and it's a fix. I haven't talked to him for over 2 years now, and I still have nightmares, and I still get scared to go home in the dark, and I still get scared of being home alone when the lights are off or going downstairs. Like, it's one of those things that it just sticks with you because you don't know if it's ended.
But even after Paige broke her silence, many questions still lingered. Like, who was uploading to the LionMaker channel during the time he was said to have been locked away? Did somebody else have access to his account? Or was he on house arrest with more access to the internet than originally anticipated? According to Colossal, the answer here is actually pretty complicated. He technically didn't even go to prison. Despite pleading guilty to the 4 aforementioned charges, it said he was placed in some kind of halfway house, court holding cell, pedo rehab. Who's to say? It wasn't the conventional prison experience you would have expected, to say the least. According to both Paige and Colossal, his sentence was relegated, put off, based around certain conditions such as not being able to use the internet, having no contact with his victims, prohibiting use of drugs, things of that nature. Another being he wasn't allowed to create a YouTube channel, which is a condition we know for a fact he broke in early early 2019 when he returned to YouTube under a new account of the same name. According to The Clown, this breach of his limited sentence is a big reason why the situation is still ongoing. We don't know much about the eventual outcome of the trial. It's only reasonable to stick to what we know at this time. And a way we can do that is by looking back at some of LionMaker's own words.
When I get drunk and I'm mean and I say stupid things and I'm aggressive and
Yeah, okay, so this 25-minute therapy session is one of many instances where LionMaker would attempt to rectify himself over the next year on his new channel, garnering about 40,000 subscribers before its eventual deletion. I mean, apart from just openly breaking the terms of his sentencing, he was evading suspension, after all.
I didn't hurt her. I didn't force myself on her. I didn't manipulate her. I didn't.
Maar u vooral ook, hè?
No, but I don't care about me. I really don't. Like, I can't. People have no idea how much I don't care about me.
I don't think he's even allowed to publicize something like this. You know, something probably isn't meant for broadcasting when one party is blurred out and speaking a different language.
Lijkt mij dat het niet alleen tussen u en Pages, maar dat het grotere geheel is.
I don't know.
Marcus is putting on a show, trying to convince a fraction of his remaining audience that he's in the right, mostly on account of his evidently troubled emotional state.
I'm gonna start killing some people, I tell you. I'm gonna start fucking beating the shit out of people. The fact that you're here watching me, not understanding what the fuck is going on, is because your parents don't love you enough to explain to you how the fucking world is put together. So guess what? Fuck you. And I'm gonna call the authorities. I'm gonna tell someone. And I'm gonna tell them how much they suck. Be proud of yourself, you fucking loser.
Now, of course, I don't doubt Marcus was going through one of the most difficult times of his life, but the way he goes about this forced redemption arc is just irresponsible and a little manipulative when you consider all the things he's been accused of and convicted of.
I could never tell the truth, and as a child I thought, well, why tell the truth? They think I'm lying anyway, so I might as well just lie.
He wants his young fans to think he's sorry for hurting those in his life whom he claims to care about. Of course, if he actually cared, you'd think maybe he wouldn't have groomed and abused anyone.
I could see myself coming back, you know. I want to come back.
See, you'll never actually hear him willingly state what he did or who he specifically hurt on account of most of these live streams being abstract fluff meant to garner sympathy points. If you wanted to convince people you were genuinely working to better yourself, you'd probably take a step back from the internet altogether. A lot of it would probably happen behind the scenes, maybe all of it. You sure wouldn't feel an urge to guilt people into feeling bad for you by posting these insane, drunken ramblings online. It's just kind of disgusting.
You are a piece of shit! Shame on you for sitting here and trolling. I literally just talked to my psychologist and I told her the same thing. I said, you're delusional. I told her, I know better. I know better. Fuck, I see you. I see you, motherfucker.
To many, it came across as more of a performative beg for pity than an authentic outcry of remorse, considering his sorry attempts at vindication hardly matched the crimes he was accused of.
And I want to just keep my phone clean, you know? I'm tired of holding my phone and it always being a tool for something.
A tool for what, I wonder?
There's a lot of ignorance. I think a lot of people come in here and, you know, they ask me questions or they say certain things and it's just so... It's so unfounded and it just doesn't add up, really.
Kawaii! It's just a joke. It's just a joke. It's just a joke. Chill. Okay, boomer. Okay, boomer. Okay, boomer. Okay, boomer.
Gonna be honest, a lot of the material within these live streams seems kind of intentionally vague and definitely confusing. Marcus was nowhere near in the right headspace to be producing any type of content for the internet. In fact, it's within everyone's best interest that he stays 10 miles away from a computer, probably for the rest of his life. But despite being a convicted child predator, his drive to persevere was made more obvious through these obscene, incoherent streams that would last hours on end in front of just a small ensemble of old fans. A fraction of his original audience that just can't seem to turn away from the devastating train wreck unfolding before their very eyes, boiling down into nothing more than an absolute laughingstock. I don't even know how he was able to post any of this. I really don't.
LionMaker has went to court, right? He was found guilty. He literally went to jail. He gets out of jail. How is he allowed to just start making Minecraft videos again? I don't get it.
Yeah, so he was convicted, charged, 4 separate counts: rape of a minor, sexual assault, possession of child pornographic material, and distributing it. But for some weird Belgian law technicality, his sentence was suspended. I don't know whether or not these conditions have now been lifted, or he's currently breaking his terms of parole or requirements. Well, I don't know, it's complicated.
See, for the longest time, Marcus really wanted to exonerate himself by any means necessary. In some cases, that meant reacting to certain videos made on him back in 2016. Colossal's Crazies video.
Apparently has some form of skin disease if you watch him close.
Yeah, it's called eczema. And at the time I was going through quite a lot of stress, I guess. A lot of it self-indulged or self-induced. But yeah, when I get stressed out or when I get nervous or when I'm like uncomfortable, my eczema gets a little bad and my skin starts to peel. I get it predominantly around my nose.
Yeah. Nobody gives a shit.
It's so ridiculous because I understand and I know where the mom's coming from because obviously she believes the situation to be as it is, and I never had anything against the mom.
If you had nothing against the mom, then why'd you threaten to sue her, dude? A slight deviation from his story in 2016 maybe, but this obviously isn't the first time Marcus has felt the need to lie about a detail so otherwise minuscule. More often than not, it's actually these slight inconsistencies you pick up on here and there that go to paint a broader, more demented picture of what we see when we investigate the monster that is LionMakerStudios.
For those that watch my channel, the Shake My Booty in Your Face, we all know what that's about. And do you see how they turn this into like this perverted, sick, twisted thing? Because one time in a video I said, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we had like an official song? And then someone, a viewer made a song about I Shake My Booty in Your Face. Why do parents film their kids shaking their booty and then jumping in the pool and then telling me, oh, Lion, look what you've done to our kids. You bring us so much joy, and then send me the email.
Yeah, a convicted child predator was just joking about kids recording themselves dancing to a song called Shake Your Booty in My Face. I mean, you have to be kidding, right? That's a joke. There's no... Really?
The thought of myself being in a sexual relationship with a 16-year-old is disgusting.
That's not what you said. But let's not talk about that, huh?
LionMaker made a reference to you or the recent video when he went over the video that you did on that, and something I saw in there bothered me. Do you want to address that so I can?
Are we talking about where he referred or insinuate that we had discussed our pedophile activities together? He's insinuating we had a discussion where I basically outed myself as a pedophile, which is just an outrageous fucking lie. Yes. I think he knows he's lying. It's just pure bait. Tommy can back me up on everything because we literally only had the one conversation.
I was there the whole call.
The tale of LionMaker serves as a forewarning to anyone who may be a victim of their abuser's sick fantasies, anyone who may be involved with a manipulative party, or just to anyone whose mental image of their favorite internet celebrity deviates wildly from their actual character. It's a reminder that not everyone on the internet is who they they claim to be. This was a man who made Minecraft content for children to consume, but behind the scenes was allowing his own depraved impulses to control his decisions, which led to years of suffering for innumerable individuals. In fact, I think it's only fitting we close with some final words from one of his most outspoken critics, Colossal, narrated by me since he was too busy. In March 2016, I made a video on LionMaker. Later that year, I interviewed him. He asked me for another interview and I turned him down. One of my better decisions. He recently reached out to me again for yet another interview. I'm still considering it. Publicly, I've said little about this story since, but I've been following it behind the scenes for over 4 years. You have to, morally. This goes for anyone that makes a video, talks about it, etc. You can't just move on to the next thing and consider your job done, especially not when you learn he's as guilty as you thought he was. This story should stick with you for as long as you are on YouTube. It only ends when he's behind bars for good. I urge everyone who watches your video to never forget what LionMaker has done. Be prepared to assist where you can and in doing what you can. You can rest assured that he is 100% a pedophile child molester. It's a fact, proven legally, literally, and in every sense possible. I was able to get his channel removed, but to this day he is a free man, in contact with fans, with children, and thus potential victims. That shouldn't sit right with anyone that watches your video.
Keep on, keep running.